How you doing? Sorry, Ben, once again. Um,
Let it
we all start.
go.
My bad. I'm not sorry. Um, we all start off as a hobby, and there's something that flips the switch. Do you remember what that was when you were just messing around to going? Oh, it just got bigger. Was it an order or just whatever?
Well, there was definitely intentionality to it, because there's only so many people that are going to take your cups and bowls, and there's only so much room in the cabinet for all your pieces. So you had to figure out a way of offloading some of that stuff. But I was really, really fortunate that I had some friends that had just started a gift shop in downtown Pittsburgh, and I had been experimenting with some Pittsburgh themed mugs, and they worked with me on doing product development for their store specifically. And I've probably sold about 3,000 of those mugs since that time.
Nice.
So it was intentional, but it was also serendipitous.
I like big words, by the way. So was there the second part of the question is there, so did you have like smaller tools, like a smaller kiln and like beginner tools, and then when something happened you go, oh, I need a bigger kiln, or I need to upgrade things?
Yeah, so what I started with was a kiln that we had purchased secondhand from some friends in Ohio. We paid like $50 for it. It was my friend's mom's kiln that had been in her basement since the 80s when she was doing slip casts for her friends, because that was really popular for a period of time in the States. And Ben and I drove to get that kiln, and it was specifically so that Ben could save some money and work in clay with his sculptures versus working in polymer clay. If you're familiar at all with polymer clay, it can get really expensive. And he was making some pretty large pieces. So that's how we had a kiln in the basement. The way that I upgraded that kiln was in 2020. I realized that the kiln capacity wasn't the greatest, and also the control wasn't the greatest. So if you think about a kiln from like 1970 or 1980, it has what's called a cone sitter tube, and you use a cone that melts at the temperature that you want, the maximum temperature you want your kiln to reach. That little cone goes into the cone sitter, which has 3 prongs, and it's basically like a really manual kill switch. So when that cone melts, it creates a drop kill switch that shuts the kiln off at that temperature. Now, I had multiple times where the cone sitter got jammed, or the kiln didn't reach temperature, or different things like that, because it's just an old kiln. And there's coils that are inside of the kiln that reach temperature because it's electric. It's very similar to like your conventional oven, right? Not the gas ovens, but the electric ovens. So you've got that filament, or that heating instrument that's in there, the element. And the elements had gone bad. I didn't know how to change those. The cone sitter tube was like really a pain. I was losing more money trying to fire an old kiln than if I were to just upgrade to a newer, better built kiln. So I looked at my profit and revenue and said, okay, well, I can probably pay this a brand new kiln to me. I can probably pay off in 6 months. And kilns brand new run like $2,000 to $5,000 depending on size and quality and everything. And the one that I got has an electronic interface that has Wi-Fi. So I can electronically program the settings so it can hold temperature at a certain point. It can candle, which is like just heating up to like 150 to 200 degrees and sit there without me having to like do anything with it. It's just an automatic program. And it's just so much nicer because I can just pick my setting that I pre-programmed, run the kiln, check my phone, see where it's at, and I can see how it's ramping. It also gives me reports. I love data. So it gives me a report of like how much energy I used, how many hours it ran, what temperature it ran to. It also gives me like this great chart of like where it was struggling to raise the temperature. And, the more you load in that kiln, the harder it works to get to temperature because it's got more area to get hot. So it's really interesting data that I can pull from it too. So I upgraded it when I had the money to upgrade it, and it's a larger capacity. So I went from being able to fill the old Olympic kiln with 35 mugs. Now I can fill it with the kiln that I just unloaded with 72.
Wow.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice.
So big improvement.
There you go.